Hey everybody, this is Josh Mckinney, and I just want to welcome you to episode 178 of the I Suck at Jiu Jitsu show. So I thought a good place to start today, from the top of the episode, there's something that we need to address, we need to talk about. And I mean, we could talk about my illiteracy when it comes to podcasting and things like that, and it's why I don't understand what's happening. But there was some weird God-given jump in numbers that we had over this weekend. And it was significant enough that I needed to address it. I needed to talk about it. And so if you guys are joining us for the first time on the show, because it seems like there is a large group, and there are a few places that you guys could have come from. And so we'll talk about those in a second. But I just wanted to start at the top of the episode and make sure, since there are new listeners that are going to be hearing this episode, maybe even as their first I Suck at Jiu Jitsu show episode ever, or at least their first one that came out on a Thursday that they listened to that day. And it is this. Make sure you don't take this show too seriously. The stuff, the content that we talk, the ideas that we talk, they are incredibly important. And I think that a lot of people find them helpful. But the basis of this show, the important thing on the show, and I think this is something that separates us from a lot of other jiu-jitsu podcasts and just a lot of other content creation, is the things that are said on this show are not to be thought of as gospel. So many people like, oh, well, you said this in this episode. Yeah, but then 20, 30 episodes later, a year later, my opinion was different. And that is really what the basis of this show is that there aren't really absolutes in the grappling space. And as much as you want there to be, and as much as you think like, oh, well, this is definitely the best way to say this idea, or the best way to train this way, or the best way to train. I've been around jiu-jitsu for such a long time, and I've seen that said so many times. And what happens from that mindset is then you start to close yourself off to all the new ideas. Remember, jiu-jitsu is an incredibly young martial art. And so to think that we have it all figured out, especially after transitioning between languages, taking this new art and then saying, okay, well, these guys who have mastered this art now have to learn English. And then is what they're saying the best way to train, right? So we just kind of that's just where I wanted to start this episode, make sure we are all in the same space, or so it's all in the same mindset that, hey, anything said on this show could be really helpful, but you don't have to take it as gospel, and take what you like. If you like, man, I like 80% of what Josh says, but the other 20% is trash, then throw out the other 20%. To think that every single person is going to have to absorb every single idea discussed on this show, I think is just crazy. And the reason that I wanted to make sure to stress it on this episode is because, like I said, we just got a big numbers jump that I am going to not question because I'm thankful for it. And, I just wanted to make sure people were aware of that. And that if you like this show, if you like the free content, even if you don't like it and you're just listening to one episode, I don't care. Give me a 5-star review. If you get some value out of this show, I really think that is a big reason that we got this jump in numbers, is the amount of 5-star reviews. There are so many jiu-jitsu podcasts that I know have way more listeners than we do, but we compete with them in number of reviews because you guys are so awesome, and because you guys are going and grabbing those reviews. And so, and then also, we did get back-to-back shout-outs on Designated Winner, which we're going to talk about in this episode. I've got some really good Designated Winner content, actually some new ideas on using Designated Winner that I've been experimenting with for the last few months, and so I'm excited to share those with you guys. And we got 2 shout-outs, though, on what I think is the biggest jiu-jitsu podcast, and that is BJJ Mental Models. Taylor Biaggi shouted us out, and she did forget my name, which was uncool. And then she remembered and then said it. Like, Taylor, shoot, we've known each other since Blue Belt. How are you going to dog me like that? And then Jake Luigi, who was just recently on the show from the YouTube channel Less Impressed, More Involved, also gave a great designated winner shout out. And I've had a few different people message me already and say that they found the show because of that. And so regardless of how you found the show, it's a little longer intro than usual, but I just want to say welcome. And today we're going to get into this episode. I have a fun one planned for us. I just had a match a few days ago, and I'm going to dig deep into that match and just talk about the prep, talk about the mindset, and then talk about some different actual physical things that we did in preparation for this match that assisted in mindset. And so without further ado, last little reminder, 5-star review, just do it right now. And then get on iTunes if you're on Spotify, and then do it there. And then get on, I don't know, Google Play, download Android onto your phone, and then get on Google Play, do the same thing. I don't know. Just give me that 5-star review. Let's go ahead. I'll stop rambling and we'll get into the episode, which is mostly rambling. Let's get into the episode. All right. So I thought a perfect place to start today's episode is just to recap my last Jiu Jitsu competition, my last match. Actually, we're actually going to kind of recap my last 2 matches because I approached them differently. And I think that there are some big takeaways. There are some big things to learn from the way I approached the first match versus the way I approached the second match. And what was interesting is both matches had a lot of similarities. Both matches, I was fighting guys that kind of train in the Daisy Fresh space. I've told you guys plenty of times on the show how we are like, we're all frenemies. Honestly, we're all really good friends. We all see each other, talk to each other at these tournaments. We all get together when we're at big tournaments because we're all trying to beat the big schools that other people have heard of. But we also are competitive, and we live an hour and a half away from each other. And so when it comes to local competition, our lower belts are fighting constantly. And then as it grows, I told you guys that story. I don't even remember what episode it was, but I know it was like the Jiu Jitsu Con Master Worlds recap. I told you guys that story of my friend Han in the final against one of their guys at Master Worlds, right? And so this is this battle that happens a lot. And so I know that we always have strategies against each other. Like when I'm fighting one of their guys, I've had a good amount of matches with their guys at this point, or when they're fighting me. I know that we all have secret strategies, secret things that we talk about. And so we won't get into any of the behind the scenes strategies, because I'm sure that we both have stuff that is really valuable because we get to see each other compete all the time, right? But my match, the event was called Strange Hands. It was at the end of last year. Was against Cody Kellison. And Cody he's actually under Gracie Humaita. He runs a Gracie Humaita school, or he's a coach at a Gracie Humaita school. But he does a lot of his cross training with the Daisy Fresh boys. And then recently, just this weekend, I had another match, another super fight, and it was against Josh Murdoch, who I had conversations with, and I think we're going to be able to get he and his brother on the show soon. I'm sure if you guys don't know who they are yet, you will very soon, because they're doing that next season of the Daisy Fresh show. And I saw in the commercial that they're going to be big characters in the show. And so we'll make sure to get them on and kind of tell their story maybe a little differently than they get to on the show. And so that'll be really fun. But both matches were in St. Louis, my hometown, or the big city for us. We're probably live 5-10 minutes outside of St. Louis on the Illinois side, but it's still, if you're giving a general place of where we live, always say St. Louis. And both matches were the main event. I think both matches were 7 minutes. My match with Cody might have been a 6-minute match, might have been even shorter. But they were both a little shorter than I'm used to. And both were submission only, no points, and then ref's decision at the end of the match based on Jiu Jitsu stuff, I guess. I don't know, aggression and other Jiu Jitsu stuff. And so, just give you like a brief summary of the match with Cody, and then we'll go a little deeper into the match with Josh that was this weekend. So the match with Cody, there were some really surprising things for me in that match. Cody's skill wasn't surprising. I knew that he was going to be tough. If he's a really good competitor. He seems to be getting better every single match. And so I was aware that it was going to be a really tough battle. But what I was not aware of is mentally how hard that match was going to be. And I seem to be one of the only people that really experienced it at that event. But the mat space was very small, and basically there were 250 people in a tight room, and I couldn't imagine that the mat space was any bigger than 5 foot by 10 foot. The mat space was so small, and if you're planning on wrestling, it wasn't happening. And then not only that, it literally was like this is how I explained it to some of my students after. Imagine like 200 people that you know very well, some of your closest friends and family are all at a match, right? And the event ends with you. And all of those people are not only standing at the edge of a 5 by 10 mat, they are leaning over that. They're like over top of you, yelling down at you. That was the experience. That was the match. And it was super intense. And I didn't even realize in the match. I think I made some mistakes that I normally would make. Me and Cody are actually going to do a recap of our match once the studio is finished. And so if you guys don't know, we're at Simplifying Jiu-Jitsu Studios right now, and we are doing a huge studio remodel. This will actually be the last time that you guys see me on this ugly webcam camera. If you're watching on Spotify or on YouTube, we're going to be back to the cameras that cost way too much money. And we're going to get all that set up this week. And then we're going to get back to doing some interviews too. So that'll be really fun. But like I said, Cody's going to come on and we'll recap this match. But that was the biggest takeaway for me in the match. There were some mistakes that I made. And I think that I let the intensity of the situation really affect me. And I got some advice. And I will talk about that advice a little bit later in the episode. It's kind of like point 2. We'll talk about that advice from the head of my affiliation, Jared. But I'm just gonna paint you this picture of the other match. Okay. Also, the Strange Hands event was sponsored by Imposed Will. It was run by Imposed Will, Adam Meredith at Imposed Will. One of the coolest events that I've ever been a part of. It was at a brewery in the second floor. And then it was sponsored by a company called Strange Donuts. Strange Donuts is a really big St. Louis donut shop. They have multiple places, and their donuts are strange, right? So if you want a donut that's a cinnamon donut with Lucky Charms on it, they've got it. And so obviously the partying got way too hard with all those free donuts at the end of it. But that's a different time. That's a story we can't even tell on the podcast. It got so graphic with donut eating, right? But the next match, the match that I had this weekend, I knew what to expect a little more. I knew what the situation would be. I knew that it's a bigger venue. I believe that there were 500 plus people there. I'm also, Josh, I'm not talking about myself, Josh. I'm talking about Josh, the guy I grappled. That's confusing. He lives about an hour and a half away. A lot of their team, a big portion of their team was in Japan at the time. And so it wasn't like he was going to be the hometown guy for this match. I assumed with how many tickets I sold, my coach, Kyle Watson, is actually the co-main event. I was the main event. And so he had a bunch of ticket sales, and we're all TAC team. And then Revive, who I train with a lot, they also had a bunch of ticket sales. And I've been training once a week with those guys. And so the amount of people that were hoping that Josh could win, me, Josh, not that Josh, man, this is confusing. But the amount of people that are hoping Josh Mckinney could win, I knew it was going to be a big amount. I knew that they were going to be drunk. It was going to be loud. It was going to be over the top. And so I approached the situation differently this time. And we'll talk about the approach in a second, but I'll just paint you a picture of everything from my experience. So we have to get there at like 4:30. We are there. I don't compete until I didn't even check the time, but I assume it was about 10 p.m. When I went on as the main event. And right before, like I'm standing out there, I'm watching my coach Kyle, and he's putting it on. He's putting on a show. The crowd is going nuts, and he gets the win. He wins by decision, but I mean, it wasn't even close. He was very dominant. His guard passing, his wrestling was, I mean, it was exactly what I've been experiencing and dealing with lately. But it was just, I don't know, it was just excellent, right? And so I think that like from there, I was totally in the moment at that point when he got his hand raised and they get done. I'm just trying to ignore the crowd, trying to stay focused on my match, very in the moment. And they announce, here's up next the main event, the diabolical leader of the Head Nod Squad, which is not my nickname. I don't have a nickname. I've never had a nickname, but the announcer took it on himself to give me the nickname, the diabolical leader of the Head Nod Squad. I did have one quick thought. Like I'm walking out and I was like, oh, that's cool. That's really, I should look up the description of that. The description of that means like, Satan. So maybe we might do a little tweak to the name. I don't know, but it was a good nickname. I don't know. It was cool. And so I go out, the crowd is roaring. They are literally so loud I mean, they're just carrying over from Kyle's match, right? And it's the last match of the night. People are over the top, trying to not acknowledge the crowd at all, not think about it, just go in and grapple. And the match starts. I get a good connection on the feet, and Josh takes a shot. Not me, Josh, other Josh. He takes a shot, and I'm able to kind of stuff it, attack a guillotine. He defends the guillotine by falling back, and while he's falling, I'm able to kind of jump over and get a really quick, we call like a torpedo knee cut, and I'm able to get into side control really early. His defense was incredibly good. He was actually doing some guard retention stuff that in my mind at first felt like an accident. Like, how did he accidentally just get back to guard? And then I was able to pass again, and then he did it to me again. And I was like, oh, that's on purpose. He's using Jiu Jitsu. I didn't even realize, right? And so kind of a thought that when you're fighting a guy like that, for me at least, I know if I'm fighting a Daisy Fresh guy, or if one of my students he's going to be in shape, it's going to be tough. And if if I get ahead in the match and then I'm like, okay, now I can coast a little bit, not a good call. Absolutely not a good call. This dude has done a lot of rounds with Andrew Wiltsey, right? Who I've grappled before. We've talked about before. You guys know that I regard as one of the toughest grapplers, not just from our area, but I think in the world. And it felt like, oh yeah, this guy knows how to absorb everything that I'm trying to give him. And if I were to stop at any point in this match, I'll lose, right? Or at least he'll start to get back, right? And with a no points match, it's not like a match where you go, okay, well, I'm up 7 and all I have to do is make sure he doesn't sweep me to mount and then score again, right? It's not like that. It's hey, if he gets a close armbar, he wins this match. If he gets a close triangle, he gets a close ankle lock, he wins this match. So having to stay on offense for the whole 7 minutes, I'm able to stay on offense. I'm able to kind of get up, and we do fall off the stage at one point. The stage was bigger, but it was also raised. Dude, this stage is like 3.5 or 4 feet off the ground. And so we did take a tumble off the stage, but both of us landed on our feet, which was super fortunate. There were actually some betting odds in the back on who would go off the mat. And I'm not like crazy scramble guy. And so I was like, yeah, there is 0 chance that I fall off the mat tonight. And Cody Kellison, who we talked about earlier, and also He's going to come on the show again. But if you guys want to check that episode out, I don't actually remember the number off the top of my head, but one of the most powerful, I think it's actually called the most powerful I Suck at Jiu Jitsu show episode with him. We just talk a lot about mental health. We talk a lot about things like that. If that's something that affects you, I really think you would love Cody's episode of the show. But anyway, Cody tells me, he goes, "Oh yeah, you and Josh are definitely going off the stage." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, sure." He goes, "Trust me, you guys are going off the stage." And sure enough, he was right. He should have put some money down because we did take a tumble off the stage, and we were both safe. It was almost the end of the match. Really didn't have much effect on anything, but I was able to get the win. Man, the this is a side note. I talk a lot about on the show the importance of being humble, the importance of not having this 2023 jiu-jitsu arrogance that is pushed and is sold by some of the highest level guys. I'll say this. That is not easy to do. When you have 500 people and you just win a match against a tough person and they're cheering your name and they're throwing up your hand signal and they're going nuts, there is something intoxicating about that feeling. There is something, to me, there is something truly dangerous about that feeling. We talk about this on the show constantly, that you cannot, if you want to continue to be great at jiu-jitsu, but also be a good person, you cannot fall into that hype train. You cannot believe your own hype, because you get off the mat and people are hugging you that you don't know, and they're telling you how great you are and you're amazing and you're this and you're that. No, you won a jiu-jitsu match. That's it. Because if you start believing that other stuff, you start believing, I am awesome, I am great, what starts to happen is you start to put yourself over other people. And if you put yourself over other people, that means that you are saying you people that aren't as good at jiu-jitsu are less than. You are less than me. I should be allowed to take advantage of you. I should be allowed to, we won't get into that stuff. Just, there is something to that. There is something to getting addicted to that jiu-jitsu success. And keep in mind, that jiu-jitsu success, no matter who you are, it is not going to be there forever. We saw a really prime example of how many fans Gordon Ryan lost over the week. You know, and I'm just speculating on this. Maybe he didn't. Maybe I'm totally wrong on this. But I've talked to different students that are huge Gordon Ryan guys, and they were very upset about how he handled the Felipe Pena match. You know, the getting sick and then, you know, coming like backing out of the match, which, hey, I totally get. I actually, this is a little note. And keep in mind, had I lost my match, I would have never, ever told you guys this. But on Monday, before my match is on a Saturday, I got whatever that stomach bug is that's been going around. And I spent 2 days having tummy issues. And it was horrible. I didn't eat for probably 48 hours, at all. And then the stuff that I had eaten 24 hours before, I didn't absorb it. I didn't get to actually eat that stuff. And so, yeah, it was just not a great situation. And so I am not saying like, hey, he should have just accepted the match. If I'm fighting Felipe Pena, you know, I could see being afraid and being like, I just don't have it physically. Um, so this isn't some testament of like, oh, Josh is tougher than Gordon. Totally different situation. But I do see needing to back out of the match. I think if I get sick a day later, maybe on Tuesday, I think I'm probably talking. Even this, I might have not even wanted to back out of the match, but I think that my coaches might have said, "Hey, you're not getting to do this match. Not happening. It's not safe. It's not smart. You're not doing it." And so I get that. But when you back out, when you've said things about your opponent that you're so much better than him, and you weren't even going hard the last time you grappled, and this guy is trash basically, and then you back out because you got sick, people are going to talk, right? They're going to say, hey, this doesn't add up. I don't know if I love what this guy's saying right now. And then the fact that you double down, and while you're sitting on your couch, you're trying to insult the two guys that are actually out there, are actually competing. To me, and again, this is my perspective, this is just my speculation. To me, it shows that you have built up this ego. You have built up, and obviously, this dude's the greatest. He is. There is nobody that has done no-gi at a higher level than he has. That is probably nobody in the no-gi space that has affected the game in the way that he has. But you can do that without ego. You can do that without putting yourself above other people, because then we all fall at some point, no matter what, whether it was sickness that beats us or getting submitted, we all fall. And if you've created this situation where you are better than everybody, your fall looks a lot rougher and you're not able to handle it well, and you can look like a child. And I've talked to people like some of my students that are like such big Gordon Ryan fans. They love the trash talk. They love all those things. And they literally were like, I don't like Gordon anymore, man. That wasn't a good look. That wasn't something that I want to look up to, the way that he handled the situation. That's usually I never talk about current events in the jiu-jitsu space. I don't know why I talked about that. That was not part of the plan. But let's get back to, that was what it was about. It was just about, how easy it can be to let your ego take over. Even if we're not looking at main events, even if we're looking at local tournaments, even if we're not looking at competition, and we're just looking at beating people in the gym, winning can be this intoxicating thing. And of course, we should enjoy it. You work hard for your wins. You should be allowed to enjoy them. But just make sure you're not treating other people who can't beat you badly. You're not treating other people like, hey, I matter more than you do because I can win better than you can. That's, you know what? Let's go ahead and we'll take a little commercial break, and then we'll go from the top and look, because I kind of talked all the way through the match. Obviously, I don't know if I said it at the end, but I got the win. And I was able to win pretty decisively. It was a decision, but it was pretty decisive. And like I said, the crowd was nuts, and it was this huge, super intense and intoxicating situation. And we'll look at kind of decompressing from that and some of the lessons learned, some of the things that were done differently in the approach to this match versus any match that I've had ever. And we'll go ahead and get into that after the commercial break. Hey there, jiu-jitsu enthusiasts. Are you tired of feeling stuck in your training? Are you struggling to learn jiu-jitsu as fast as you like? Well, have no fear, because the 3 lenses are here. Gosh, that was cheesy. I got to start writing my own commercials again. This new ebook, available for free at simplifyingjujitsu.com/3, teaches you how to approach jiu-jitsu training from 3 different perspectives, helping you learn faster than ever before. With the three lenses, you'll learn how to break down techniques, find your personal style, and develop your own game plan. And the best part, it is completely free. So head over to simplifyingjujitsu.com/3, that is the number 3, and download the three lenses today. You'll be on your way to mastering jiu-jitsu in no time. Thank you guys for listening. Let's get back to the episode. So now we're going to just look at some thoughts on mindset. We're going to look at some things, like I said, some things that I was able to do differently and how I was able to implement them. But I think a great place to start with this part of the episode is a little story. And so for you guys like that don't know, like I said, we probably have new people joining the show. The show is not just weekly me talking about jiu-jitsu. Usually we're doing more interviews. And for me, it's been tough with this studio rebuild that I haven't had any time to do interviews because that's where a lot of my inspiration comes from. Really, I am not like what I'm great at is not being some visionary or innovator in the jiu-jitsu space. Something like what separates me, in my opinion, from most people is my ability to steal ideas from other people and fit them into what I do and I believe. Okay. And I talk about this on the show all the time. That is one of the biggest habits that I think that you can have in jiu-jitsu is like asking the right questions and then implementing whatever answers you get. And this is a prime example of that. So I got to do a seminar with Jared Weiner, who is going to be on the show again soon. And we already have the topic. We're going to talk mindset pretty much the entire time. And man, Jared to me is just this wealth of knowledge. I'm a member of TAC team and he is the head of the affiliation. And it's been a while. It's pre-COVID since the last time I saw him in person, but he was able to do a seminar at my coach's gym and some belt promotions at Revive. And so it was really cool to get to spend a few days with him, just picking his brain on things. He's just so sharp when it comes to jiu-jitsu. And there was this point in one of the seminars and somebody asked about mindset. And he gave a few little examples of what you should be thinking right before the match, like should be thinking about your jujitsu. You should be thinking about your moves, about your grip fights. And that was resonating with me. But then somebody asked a follow-up question and they said, do you do any type of positive or do you do any type of affirmations or do you do any type of visualization or anything like that? And I kind of, knowing Jared and how hard-nosed he is and how tough he is, I was thinking that he wasn't going to answer this way. I thought that Jared would be like, yeah, just be tough, like just punch yourself in the face. If you go back to episode 27, that was the time that Jared was on the show. I think the title of the episode is like getting in fist fights in hockey rings and Philly cheesesteaks, right? And that should tell you a lot that there is to know about Jared. And when we're talking about getting into fistfights in hockey rinks, we're like talking about like peewee hockey. We weren't talking about like the NHL, right? And so that kind of is what I'm expecting. That's the answer. Oh yeah, just go punch this guy in the mouth. He had just explained that shooting up a triangle that you should be, and of course I'm the Uki, so I'm just getting beaten down. He's like, yeah, your hamstring hitting the guy's neck should be like a flashbang. It should disorient him, right? And so I'm expecting some really aggressive affirmations, some really aggressive visualization ideas. And Jared goes, yeah, everything positive. He said, you cannot think negative at all in your approach to jiu-jitsu. When you're going into your match, you're getting ready for your match. He goes, you're visualizing your hand getting raised. You're visualizing doing your jiu-jitsu. He goes, if there is a negative thought, you don't even finish the thought. He goes, you push that out of your head. You go back to positive. And to me, I've been training for 15 years. I have been competing for 15 years. And it was like this huge click. It was this huge mindset hole that I have brought with me to so many matches. So often, my best performances as a competitor were like when I'm competing 2 or 3 or 4 weeks in a row, right? Or I'm doing 4 tournaments in 2 months or something like that. When I start to like get in the rhythm of matches, right? But when I have something like I just had last week, I have a 5 month layoff and now it's time to compete again. Those have always been the hardest times for me to perform. And when he said that, I had this vision, this flashback to I play these thoughts and I act like they're helpful. Where like, okay, well, what would I have done? What would I do in this situation if I get put into an armbar? What would I do if I get into a triangle, right? Because I do try to have really good submission defense and deep submission defense. And so I start to play it in my head. What should I do, right? And a lot of times, even for the training in the approach to the match, those last weeks, a lot of times doing a lot of bad positions, because it pushes your cardio. And a lot of what I thought of is like toughness training. But this time, it was different. This time, I was like, you know what? I'm not going to think about anything like that. I am only going to think positively and only about my offense, only about my jujitsu. I go, if I get put in an armbar, if I get put in a triangle, that defense is going to be there. I don't get put in an armbar in the gym and then go, oh man, I wish I would have visualized this situation more. But for whatever reason, when you're getting ready to compete, at least for me, maybe this doesn't resonate with people, but for me, when I'm getting ready to compete, sometimes, especially when it's going to be a tough opponent, sometimes I start to plan, well, what if, what if, what if? And this time, I just decided every time that thought would creep in, because it does still creep in when you're trying to visualize your match, when you're in your shower and you're pretending that you're getting your hand raised for the match, for your win, you're like, maybe I'm fighting all this adversity and I'm dealing with this. Well, I decided I was going to push those things out. I had one saying basically for adversity, just one. And it was, I stole this from, it's actually watching the playoffs this year in the NFL. But the Miami Dolphins, I guess they would have been playing the Bills, and they lost the game, but they were supposed to lose the game badly, right? They were supposed to just get blown out, is what people were acting like. And their coach just kept saying, he said it in a few interviews, he even said it at halftime. He kept saying that the winner of this game is going to be the team that responds best to adversity. And he just kept telling his team that and telling his team that. He didn't say, this is the adversity that we are going to deal with. He didn't say, this is how we're going to play the game if we're down by 21 points. He said, adversity will come, and we have trained ourselves to be able to respond to adversity. And so that was it. Anytime it was negative, I would just say, push that thought out of my head. I'm going to respond well to adversity. No matter what the adversity is, I'm going to respond well to adversity. Guess what happens? I get sick the week of the match. And honestly, it didn't make me nervous. I've had like nagging little injuries on a Saturday morning when I'm going to compete that Saturday, and been so stressed and let it play into my head. And then I'm like playing, okay, well, my knee hurts. My knee hurts. My knee hurts. What do I do? My knee hurts. And instead of just going out and competing and responding to whatever happens in that match, I would not be in the moment. I would not be focused on the moment. I would be too focused on the before of my knee, my knee, my knee, or even the after of, well, maybe I can win this match, but I probably can't win the next one. And that's not positive. That is not helpful. And so, here's the last little example. I remember when I would compete at purple belt. At purple belt, I was absolutely a one trick pony. I could I could train with anybody like in the gym, but when it came to competing, I had one game plan, and it was do or die. And I won't even keep it a secret. If you guys watched Josh McKinney compete at purple belt, you know this. I would pull guard and I would shoot triangles for 7 minutes, right? Every once in a while, I would get a sweep and I would play top on guys, but like I never wrestled, never let people pull before me and try to pass. I was a triangle guy, okay? And something that would happen in matches, especially like some days things would just roll. And you go out, you hit a triangle early in your first match, like 30-second triangle. Then you get an opportunity. If you hit that second triangle in the next match, the mental battle, the mental warfare of that was unbelievable. I would watch guys, for that third match. Maybe I hit two triangles in a row. There are a lot of different tournaments that I have video of this, and you can watch it and go, did that guy just fall into your triangle? That's what would happen is people would start to play in their own head. What is my best triangle defense? What is the best way to defend this triangle? And they wouldn't play in their head. I'm going to put Josh McKinney on the defensive. I'm going to pass his guard. And then what would happen is they would sit and wait for 2 minutes for me to try to put them in a triangle. And then they would go, okay, now I'm in the triangle. Now I'm going to try to defend. It's the wrong mindset. It's the wrong mindset. That your triangle defense is going to be there. Yes, you can even play it in your head for a second. Okay, yeah, I know what my defense is, but I'm not getting put there. I am doing my jiu-jitsu. This is just a different kind of approach. And you can use this with your imagery training. We had Jeff Schulz on episode number 23 on the show. So it's really early on. I haven't re-listened to it, but I'm sure the audio is trash, and I'm sure that the video is trash, and it's all trash, but the content is super good. I have gotten so much out of that episode, just on the idea of imagery training, just the idea of how to visualize and what to visualize. And this time, for me, I visualized my grip fight in the very beginning of the match. I visualized that. I don't think I visualized anything else. I didn't visualize like any of the guard passes I hit. I had visualized a little bit of guillotine stuff because I saw maybe my first grip fight possibly ending up in a guillotine, and it almost did, but I missed it. And then I went back into just reacting. I went back into just regular jiu-jitsu. And I really think, and obviously this is one match. This is one situation that I'm explaining. But I really do think that it made a monster difference. And now, a lot of the stuff that Jeff talked about in the imagery training episode was kind of sitting in a place and imagery training, right? Something I did on this tournament that was different, or this match that was different, is I tried to implement imagery training into designated winner. Tried to implement imagery training into designated winner. If you guys have not heard a designated winner episode, recommend number 158, and I'll make sure to link that. But to me, I think that designated winner has more applications than just trying to add new techniques into your game. Perfect example. People will like tell me, yeah, man, I'm having so much trouble. I'm holding my breath a lot in rounds. Just like and I tense up and then I don't breathe. One of the best ways to correct that, to me, is to do designated winter rounds and focus only on your breathing. Focus only on pushing CO2 out of your body. I don't have the number, but I have an episode with Miles Lucas, and he's a black belt, and then he's trained under Wim Hof, and so has some really good breath work ideas. Again, this is something that I've implemented since, and even like I think most of my students probably do it now too. But we all do breathing exercises before it's time to compete. It helps lower your anxiety exponentially. And Miles talks about that in the episode. But with that, you can do that breathing and start to, just like we talk about constantly, you use designated winner to take what you're trying to add and tie it into what you already know. Maybe what you're trying to add is not a submission or a guard pass or whatever. Maybe it's just learning to breathe. Maybe it's just learning to move your feet a little more when you're passing the guard. Maybe it's just to be more active on your hand fighting, right? You can do this and use it so many different ways, but tying it into imagery training. So, like I said, visualization of that first hand fight. So this is what I would do is even up until the only training I got to do the week of the tournament after being sick was the Friday, the day before the match. And I got with one of my purple belts, John. He's kind of my main guy that we play designated winner with just a ton. And we did, I think we did probably 6 3-minute rounds of designated winner. And it was all imagery rounds. Yes, I was, successfully hitting my grip fights, successfully hitting my takedowns, successfully hitting my guard passes, successfully hitting my leg locks from guard, doing those over and over. But the biggest difference was it was those grip fights, those little hand placements, those little things. I just was trying to see myself in the situation, trying to see myself with the crowd and ignoring that and saying, okay, I'm just going to focus on this match, trying to experience the situation that I knew I was going to be in. And that is something I didn't do in the main event 5 months ago, 4 months ago, 5 months ago. I don't know when it was. Who knows? I think it was 4 months ago. But that was something I didn't do. Instead, I was focused on, okay, I got to make sure that I perform well because there's going to be a crowd there, and I've got to make sure I do this and that. Those are not jiu-jitsu. Focus on the jiu-jitsu. So that is, like I've told you guys, the one statement that has helped my students more than anything. There are actually two when it comes to competing. And the first one is just do jiu-jitsu. Just grapple. My wife said it to me the morning of my match. I was kind of still being pretty stoic, still just chilled out because I knew it was going to be a long time until I competed. And she's just said, what are you going to do tonight? And I go, what do you mean? And she said, just do jiu-jitsu. I was like, thanks, babe. Perfect. And that is, to me, one of the biggest things when it comes to competition. You want to do all these other things. You want to use more strength and more speed and more stamina and believe it's going to be like a situation that you see in a movie where it's like you're digging deep and you're having to overcome that adversity. That's going to matter. Those things are going to happen, but you can't plan for them. Adversity, you cannot plan for. You can just make sure that you are as physically and as mentally ready for anything because you don't know what's going to happen. And so when we're looking at using designated winner to add these kind of mindsets in, you just start with a saying. You start with something simple. Just do jiu-jitsu. One of my sayings that that I really like is when I'm on top, something that I've been in the habit of, been bad about in competition is like, sometimes I'll get ahead in a match and I'll chill out too much on top. And one day I was training with somebody that came from out of town. They were really tough. And I remember I had swept the guy and I like getting ready. I'm on top. I'm like, well, I'm up 2 points. Obviously it's imaginary. We're just in the gym. And my mind said, well, you should just chill out. And I had this thought, no, This guy didn't come all the way out here to not get his guard passed by me. It's a weird little thought, right? It's a funny little saying. And I've kept that saying though. And when I'm in my designated winner rounds, I even say that to myself. This guy is not here to not get his guard passed. I think that was a double negative. I don't think that made sense. Who knows? You guys know what I mean though, right? And so that little saying, implementing into my designated winner, I'm not like visualizing the person I'm grappling, because I think when you're actually out there, like I think the best example of my match, we were talking after and people were like, well, did you hear me say this? Or did you see this? Or did you see? I like at first, the only memories that I had were like pictures of random people's faces when I would look into the crowd, right? Pictures, just little sounds like maybe a 2 second little, oh man, he's breathing really heavy. I got to push the pace now. I got to blitz now. And so, just little things like that. When you're really in the zone, when you're really out there grappling and you're just doing jiu-jitsu, you're not thinking about a lot of other things. And so when it comes to designated winner, just like we talk about the importance of thinking in concepts when you are doing designated winner, thinking of simple things that you can accomplish, simple goals to accomplish. Control his upper thighs, get an underhook, get an armpit, right? Create an angle. Those things, they are so simple, but they are the way to think in a match or in a round. If you think, okay, right hand collar, left hand grabs the ankle, then I'll take a back step. Oh, the dude changed positions. Now this doesn't work, right? If you were thinking about this perfect step-by-step jujitsu, especially these step-by-step details, you're doing a disservice to yourself. You're thinking slowly, right? Because you're thinking about too much stuff. Concepts are like this, and it's important to think that way. And I really think for competitors, mindset is like that. The simpler that you can make your mindset, the better it is for you, right? For example, really the biggest mindset that I brought in was what Jared told me. Only positive. Only think positive. I even caught myself that night. I was sitting and waiting, and I would have a thought enter my mind, and it might have been negative, or it might have led somewhere negative. And I would push it out, and I would tell myself, only positive. Think about your first grip fight. Only positive. Think about your first grip fight. And to me, I know that it was one of the mentally strongest that I've ever gotten to compete. And and this is, again, this is after 15 years of doing it. And it's not that I haven't competed very well a lot of different times. It's just that situation right there. It felt like the mental strength was there. And even the chill was there. I probably got 50 different pep talks between my students and my coaches. People kept coming backstage and talking to me. And at the time I wasn't even thinking about why, but now I look back and I've had a few conversations, and people were like, we weren't sure that you even wanted to be there. You were so chilled out. We thought that, like, man, is he not into this? But for me, I knew that the situation was going to come. I knew that there was going to be a point where my heart rate was at 250, that the crowd was roaring. I had gotten to experience it a few months before. And I knew that the best way to handle that situation is make sure I am mentally prepared for the situation, and then just wait. Because once it happens, once it starts, I was only out there for 12 minutes, probably total. That's including getting my hand raised, getting the belt, taking the last pictures, walking out, all those things. Barely out there. That moment is so short. When you're going into a tournament and you have a 5-minute match, that moment is so short. So you think positive, and then when the situation arises, you just go and grapple. And this isn't a guarantee. I could have easily taken that mindset and lost the match. Could have easily gotten behind. But that doesn't really matter. You can only control what you can control. I remember reading, this is like the first time I ever had this realization. I was struggling losing a lot in jiu-jitsu tournaments. It's like purple belt. We talked about last week how that is just how I think that anyone who's trying to be a competitor has to go through these periods of losing. They change who you are, they make you tougher, they make you dig deeper. They are important. Everyone has to go through these losses. And for me at Purple Belt, I was dealing with these, and I read a book. It's called the Mckinney Manifesto, and it was about the Mckinney Manifesto is a guy who was a manager of the St. Louis Cardinals, and he before he was a catcher on the St. Louis Cardinals too, and he was asked to coach his kids' little league team, and he said, "Okay, I'll do it, but I need all the parents to sign a contract." And it was all about making sure that it wasn't just about winning and losing. It was making sure that your kids are consistent in practice. It was making sure that they are being responsible for themselves. He says, "Hey, your kid is going to play every position on the field at some point." He's like, "We're not specializing in anything right now. We're just going to focus on making these kids better, and we are not going to worry about the result." And so that's really what the main point of the book is learning to focus on winning, or focus on training, focus on getting better, and then just going out and performing. He says you cannot actually control the result of something. You always think you can. We always believe in our hearts that we can. We have full control of these things. But sometimes people are just better. Sometimes people just beat you. And so what you can do instead is you say, okay, all I can focus on is my preparation, which is that mindset stuff that we talked about, which is our designated winner, which is our hard rounds, our consistency. You're preparing even for a tournament 5 years from now. You're preparing by going to class tonight. And so we make sure that we're being consistent and we're staying positive, staying in the moment in our training. We're focused each night in our training. We're focused on getting a little bit better and a little bit better every single day. And then when it's time to perform, you simply go out and perform. You cannot control the result. You can really only control your response to the result. And so you make sure that you're respectful. You make sure that you are the things that you want to be in your response, right? You make sure that if you win, you take those things that you did good and you say, okay, this is what I did. How do I get even better at these? Or if you lose, you say, okay, this is what I could have done better. Or if you win, you say, this is what I could have done better. I have a list of things that I can take away from this match and say, yeah, I should have done this. I should have done this. I should have trained a little bit differently in the lead up. I should have done things differently, right? I think you should always have those things. That's important to decompress, what I've been doing for the last hour, to decompress from your matches, decompress from your rounds, and then have your takeaways. Okay, I won. What can I learn? I lost. What can I learn? Right? And I think that is probably where we will end this episode. Don't usually you guys, maybe you end the episode after the content part, but there is a little blurb for you guys in the closing of this episode that I think might tie everything together. And so we'll go ahead and we'll get to that. And that is the episode. Thank you guys for listening to this one. Just a quick little summary of the episode, the big takeaways. And I think that this for competitors, I know competitors will listen to this episode. The big takeaway for me, and this is something that, like I said, I just implemented, is always positive. Everything positive in your lead up to your match. Okay. So when you're looking at your training, when you're looking at your imagery training, when you're looking at all of it, just make sure you stay positive. It's so easy to fall into negative mindsets in jiu-jitsu tournaments or jiu-jitsu matches. Just in life in general, it's easy to fall into negative mindset and to start to worry about things that you can't control. You're going into a match sick with an injury or, just not focused or whatever. And then what you start to do is you start to only focus on that sickness, only focus on how hard your weight cut was, only focus on whatever, something that really you can't control. And so I've got a little story, one last little story for you guys. And I thought that this was just money, and it really does put into perspective everything that we talked about. So the week before this tournament or this match, a bunch of my students did the Memphis Open, and we've never had a performance like as a team like that. They just were unbelievable, my students. Even it was crazy how well everyone performed. And I think it's, going to show that things like designated winner are helping. But really, to me, the biggest thing that helped is like, if you had a list of the competitors, the people that have competed the most got the best result. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they were the best guys of our team that competed. But that consistency of just going in and developing your mindset and putting yourself in the situation and getting your reps and taking your lumps, taking your losses, it was really noticeable that it had this great effect. But there was a situation, one of my students is in the open class final in his brown belt division, and he's struggling. He is injured, and it is it's, I know that he's been struggling with it mentally. He just won. He just submitted his guy in the match before, but I can tell first thought off of the mat was, I am in pain. And I could just see it on his face, and he's struggling. And he comes up and he's like, hey, I won't tell you guys what was injured. I never like to do that. I always like to keep those things secret. But let's pretend it was his shoulder, okay? So he comes off the mat and he's like, my shoulder hurts. Man, my shoulder hurts so bad. My shoulder's blown out. And before I even could try to correct his mindset, one of the blue belts said, are you going to still go? And he goes, yeah, I'll still, I'm in the final. I'll still go. And then the blue belt says, well, you need to quit being it's a word in English for a female dog. It's offensive, and I don't say it on the podcast generally. But he told him that he needed to stop doing that. And my brown belt smiled and said, thanks, man. And went right back to competition mode. And then he was able to win by submission and against a bigger, quite a bit bigger opponent in the final. Right? But it came from not focusing on what he couldn't control. His shoulder, obviously it wasn't a shoulder, but we'll pretend it was. His shoulder was going to hurt regardless. Didn't matter. Even if he didn't go to the next match, his shoulder was going to hurt. He was in pain. But he was able to keep that out of his mind. Right? And that is the last little note I will leave you guys with on this episode, is that sometimes by ourselves, we just aren't mentally tough enough. We just aren't tough enough. The situation is just not perfect for us. And that is when it is so valuable to have teammates that you can trust, have coaches that you can trust, and have conversations before. Right? You're not going to say that to somebody that you don't know very well. You're not going to tell them like, hey, quit being a baby, toughen up. You're not going to tell them that. But a guy that you know very well, that has told you what his mindset needs to be and told you how he needs you to assist him, you can hit him with that. And it's so helpful. So that is actually where we'll leave the content of this episode, is all of these important things that we've talked about, these important mindsets. And I've been very self-focused on this episode because, I don't go to therapy, and my podcast is kind of what I do instead. And so, a lot of it was me talking about stuff, but I cannot stress to you enough how much that I would not have gotten the result or the effects of the mindset training had it have not been for the guys coaching. For my coach, Kyle, who it was really cool. He and I got to train together for this and almost both be students. We let Junior Silva kind of dictate a lot of our training, Junior from Revive, who's been on the show. And we let him kind of tell us what we should be training, and really kept us on that mindset. I couldn't tell you the last time I've seen Junior that he didn't get in my face and say, "You're so tough. You're so good. You are going to crush this guy." And just over and over and over, "You're going to win. You're going to hit this move. You're going to hit this move," and just kept it on me. And then even in my training, he would make me do situational trainings that weren't just negative approach where it's like, "Hey, Josh is on bottom or we're trying to kill him." It's like, "Hey, Josh, here's a guy that I know you can pass and I know you can beat up on. Go do it and be positive. Hit as many passes as you can. Break this guy in the round," right? And he kept pushing that. He kept making us do it, make me and Kyle do it so much. And when it came to just the mindset, I wish we had some pictures of Kyle and I backstage, but for that situation, that super stressful situation, we were chill as could be, man. And I really think it came from having the right coaches. It came from having the right teammates. Like I said, so many of my students came up. There was actually, last little story, there was actually a point where one of my black belts, one of my purple belts came up to me 5-10 minutes before the match. And they just reiterated the game plan. And they just told me that the game plan was going to work. And it let me visualize so much more. That encouragement that they gave me. And I won't tell you what the conversation was, but the conversation that they had, literally word for word, what they said right before that match happened in the match. And, that is the value of having a coach. And so that is what we'll leave you guys with. Make sure that if you guys are interested in the 3 Lenses ebook, for me, this is one of the biggest shifts for a lot of people, just learning how you learn jiu-jitsu and learning some things that you can do to put into your jiu-jitsu game and or into your jiu-jitsu training that will just help you grow a little bit every day and help you get better every single day, which really should be the goal and is really the most important thing when it comes to learning jiu-jitsu. And so, that's all I have. Don't forget 5-star reviews. As always, I would love them and appreciate them. If you guys have any questions, topic ideas, or at this point, we're going to start to bring guests in. If you have any ideas for any guests, be sure to shoot me an email, josh@simplifyingjujitsu.com. I just, I'm trying to post more on Instagram. I hate it though. I hate social media with a burning passion. And so, I wouldn't send me a message at the Josh Mckinney anymore. I just don't have, I don't have time to respond to them. And I just don't like social media very much. And so if you really do want to get a hold of me, have something to tell me, to let me know, send me a message, josh@simplifyingjujitsu.com. Obviously, if you have a brand or something that maybe we could collaborate with, something like that, send me an email, josh@simplifyingjujitsu.com. And that is all I have for you guys today. I hope that you guys got something out of this one. I just want to welcome one more time all of the new listeners. Thank you guys for checking out the show. Be sure to recommend it if it's something that you find value in. And I hope that you guys use some of this mindset stuff. I hope that I hear in a few months I get some different messages after Pans and after Worlds from people saying, yeah, this mindset stuff helped me so much. And that's the hope. But most importantly, I hope that today's episode helps you guys suck just a little bit less at jiu-jitsu. Have a great day, guys.